Hi, everyone. How are you today? You had a good coffee? I guess not. So today, my speech is going to be a bit different than the ones that you have heard so far. So far, there have been some excellent speeches, and I see that in the schedule you're going to have some excellent more. I'm going to try and provide a holistic view of AI as a whole, sharing a bit my personal experience with regards to AI, as well as touch a bit on a subject which is also one of my research interests, which is ethics in AI, which is extremely important in my view. So this is me. So basically, you all know by now, and you are also an advanced audience, so I'm not going to go deep into explaining this statement that mankind is actually being disrupted as we speak. And this gentleman actually is going to also, is my own creation. So this is something that there should be a video playing, but it's not. This gentleman actually is a creation of a prompt, my prompt, in one of the tools, so the AI tools. So, but actually, mankind is being disrupted in various ways. So you can actually create a lot of stuff using AI, which can be, good, but also can lead to something which is questionable. I want to start off with this. So I don't know your take on this, but to me, actually, having viewed the evolution of the internet since its pretty much its founding years until today, I view AI as something that is very related to the Wild West. So if I ask each and every one of you what AI is, I'm going to get a different answer. And this is all fine because we actually had the same pattern when we were talking about digital. So when we were talking initially about digital transformation and all these fancy buzzwords, if I ask someone what digital is, they could actually reply by actually telling me anything from digital is communication, digital is finance, is actually automating finance, anything that comes to their mind. And AI is exactly that. So allow me to first take a few steps back and view this thing, how it all started, and what at least I mean when I talk about AI. So a bit of history. Do you know when the first reference of AI was? So it was 19-something. Any guesses? Louder? It's okay. No penalty is going to be actually served. Sorry? 36. Oh, you went a bit far back. So it's 56 by a gentleman called John McCarthy in Dartmouth College. So this was the first reference of what he actually had to call the intelligence of, at least how he viewed intelligence in a machine, which he actually did not like the term artificial intelligence. So he actually liked more the intelligence part, but he couldn't actually assign it. So he had to give the term artificial intelligence. And this is also a trip down my personal memory lane. So I'm not going to go through each and every node of this journey. But I was very fortunate enough to have graduated from a university called Stanford University with Sergey Brin and Larry Page, who co-founded Google. So I basically viewed from my National Technical University Athens years when it was the first time that we actually communicated with other universities via Mosaic back then and Netscape. They were the actually two of the first browsers. We actually exchanged files, and that was my first wow moment. I said, wow, this is something that is big, and is going to be big. So I viewed the evolution. I actually had the privilege afterwards to work for Apple when Apple was close to being bankrupt. So if someone was to tell me now that Apple would be today what it was back then, I would have laughed in your faces. And I wish I had kept my stock options as well back then. And then I worked for a company called Sun Microsystems. Sun Microsystems was a magnificent company. It was a company who created not only the hardware and the software to enable a company to go on the internet, but is no longer existent. So I also viewed a journey the other way around. So if someone also was to tell me that today Sun would have been bought by Oracle and wouldn't exist, I would have also laughed. So, and I'm not talking about, huge, I'm not talking about 100 years or so. This all happened well, it's been some time now, but in around 30 years, 25 years or so. So the evolution, because I was, one of my interests back then was internet search, I also saw how the machine started to become more intelligent, at least for Google's engine. Back then, it was a nice free search engine that we were using in our university to search for things. It was the first time that we were actually getting some relevant results, because back then it was some other tools like Alta Vista and Ask Jeeves and some other search engines which were a bit crappy. But Google actually was the first one who returned good results. So I said, yeah, wow, that's a great company, but they're offering their service for free. So I couldn't see exactly how they would make money. And then it all started coming together. I viewed also the data part, which was extremely important, how Google was building their own data Goliath universe. So then they actually started introducing some AI parts in their search engine. So AI for me, and this is where I want to get at, is nothing new. AI also for me is an intelligence that we add in a machine. It's either an intelligence that actually has to do with a linear model. You guys know that much better than I do. Decision tree, or it has to do also with neural networks and machine learning and deep learning. So AI has a broad range, and but now everyone keeps speaking about AI. I'm sure that when you actually open your I don't know, any kind of media consuming channel like a TikTok or even Facebook or whatever, Instagram, everyone keeps talking about these cool tools about AI, how they do generative AI, how they change things, how they alter things. And this, in my view, is a bit mind-boggling and starts reminding me also, as I said, of the era when we were talking about digital transformation, everyone was talking about digital, etc. But why did it become so mainstream and so household name these days? ChatGPT, I'm sure that most probably you have seen the left graph. ChatGPT has actually achieved 1 million users in record time. You can compare it also with other platforms. I mean, this has never happened before. And on the right side, what I tried to attempt is through Google Trends, I tried to see the search behavior. So ChatGPT, since last November, I guess, so it's 1 year now, has exponentially grown in its search profile of the users. So why has this happened? The reason, in my view, is very simple. If you look at the 3 types of artificial intelligence, so far we were kind of in the narrow intelligence part. So we had tools like Alexa, Cortana, Google Assistant, Siri. As users, you probably know that these tools were very limited in providing us with any kind of conversational intelligence. So ChatGPT, general intelligence, for you who don't know, is the state where actually we achieve on-par intelligence between a person, a man, and a man or a woman, so I have to be, and a machine. So general intelligence is the point where, I'm sure that you also heard about the Turing test. Alan Turing, some time ago, said that when we reach that point when we're going to be interacting with the machine and we're not going to be able to understand if this counterpart is a machine or a person, is when we will achieve the maximum of the general intelligence state. And the other one is like more of a science fiction state, which is the superintelligence, where in the superintelligence state, we're talking about machines which are more intelligent than us. So why has AI been a household name? And in my view, this is why also everyone is talking about AI in a different fashion. It's because ChatGPT is the first tool publicly available which scratches the surface of general intelligence. Are we there yet? Obviously, we're not there yet. I'm sure that you have used ChatGPT, and it still is not a tool that we can trust and we can rely on. and we can still understand through a conversational interface that it is a machine. But this is where we're going, is this where we're going towards? I'm not sure. In my view, the future will be more of narrow intelligent, specialized AI solutions that are going to be properly orchestrated together. So in my view, the orchestration between specialized AI tools will be more valuable than trying to solve the knowledge, the entire Earth's knowledge on one tool. But still, there are going to be companies like OpenAI targeting also LLP models for the general intelligence part. So why and where? Why AI and where can we apply it towards? You very well know that AI can be applied in many sectors. It's not a sector that we cannot apply AI in the general term that I used before. Healthcare, because I also represent a company which is in the healthcare currently. Healthcare is a sector, an area where it is extremely useful and extremely applicable. Now I'm going to come, as I said, to the ethical part of AI. And unfortunately, I had to cover everything in a very short period of time, so apologies if I run it a bit. So what is ethics? This is a philosophical question that goes back even to the ancient Greek times. So ethics, we are human beings. So human beings actually have a unique differentiation from other beings, either biological and obviously machine beings. So we have a cognitive function, and we also have a sapient function as well. We have a soul. Other animals and beings, biological beings, do not have what we call a soul, do not have something that will enable us to judge between right and wrong. Ethics is judging between right and wrong. Ethics has to do with credibility. Ethics has to do with accountability. Ethics has to do with a lot of values that surround us as human beings. So, is AI good or bad? Someone might ask. I would give the cliche answer that is being used in technology. Technology inherently can be good or bad. It depends on how one uses it. And when it comes to ethics and AI, the main question remains on how do we design, develop, deploy, and use AI solutions. As the more smart the machines get, and the more we rely on their decisions, there are many critical things that have to be solved in making sure that whatever comes out as an output of a machine can be trusted and aligns with the moral values, the moral human values. In other words, we have to trust the machine. So trust, consistency, a machine has to be consistent in its delivery, and also it has to be explainable. This is the other element of a machine when we develop it. So a machine has to be trusted, and it has to be trusted through consistency and explainability. These are, if I was to actually give three main pillars of the ethical questions on AI, it would be these three. And one very important thing for you to know is that ethics as a philosophical topic, because this is a multidisciplinary domain. So it's not technology, it's not philosophy, it's not sociology, it's basically all of them combined together. It's exactly like having a kid. Most of you, I guess, have kids. I have a kid, I have a son. When we bring up our son or our daughter, we make sure that they actually have the human values that we also have as parents, so that they become better citizens for human beings. It's exactly the same thing with machines. We train machines, especially when we're talking about machine learning, deep learning, and also neural networks. I'm not talking about the simple models like the linear and the decision tree models or whatever, the simple models, because in these cases, we know how, we know the explainability is there. I'm talking about the cases where the cognitive capacity of our minds cannot comprehend how a machine thinks, how a neural network actually delivers a decision. This is something very important for us to have in mind, because a machine can replicate itself. So we cannot replicate ourselves. We do replicate ourselves, but it takes some years in order for the neurons to be properly attached, get the proper training, so that we become citizens of this world. Machines replicate themselves, so from day zero, they have the knowledge, they have the values, they have everything that we have taught them from day zero. So in order for me to make it even more complicated, bear in mind that ethics is a very complicated subject as it is. So other cultures may respond differently to ethical values than us, for instance, as Greeks. We have other cultures who might value human life even less than we do. Also, there are conflicting human values. Suppose that you have a person who has terminal cancer and wants to depart our world and asks his father, his son, to do that. So pull the plug, essentially. The son has a very serious ethical dilemma in him, and most probably, I guess, will not allow that to himself. So these are two contradictory values, because first of all, someone has the right to decide about his life, and secondly, the son also has a right to decide for his dad, actually for himself, having an impact to his dad. So this is a very, very difficult subject, and that's why you probably will see this with the term the alignment problem. How do we align our human values with the values, quote unquote, of a machine? I don't want to bother you with a lot of, because I actually went a bit overboard with time. There are many ways to do that. This is, as I said, extremely important, especially for complex AI systems that our human brain does not comprehend how they work. So one simple solution is for us to train them with our values. So this is the value training. The other one is the inverse reinforcement learning. You might see it as IRL. So the IRL part is you basically let the machine observe how we as humans interact with the machine and try to figure out patterns on what our values is. There's a combination of the two. And there is also the explainability part that I talked about. So now most systems try and embed in them the mechanism on how they reach particular decisions. And why do they do that? Because we don't want black box architectures. We want architectures where we know how someone is going to respond. So for instance, I know George. George, I have met, I have discussed, I have talked with, I've seen his resume, I know him, I've trusted him. The machine I don't know, because the machine actually has some algorithms behind. It produces some decisions, which sometimes, think about autonomous cars, have an impact on human life. So if this is a classic problem with autonomous cars, is how does a Tesla or whatever, I don't want to advertise any brands here, how does a car, an automatic car, actually decide on if it knows that it's going to be in an accident, how does it decide on which accident to choose? So this is a classic ethical problem of a machine. And nowadays there was the first legal case in the US where they sued the machine for a death. So they sued essentially the autopilot. Tesla actually won the lawsuit, so the machine was found innocent. But this raises a very important topic, which is legal rights for the machines. This is another topic that I'm leaving it with you for some food for thought. So will machines get legal rights? Why should they get legal rights, you might ask? They should get legal rights because they have to protect themselves from unlawful use, for instance. But if they get more legal rights and they become more intelligent, what's going to happen? So these things compose a rather complex situation. But if you ask me what the future is, because I hear a lot of, recently especially, with, from DeepMind and some other scientists that they're afraid of, where the world is going with AI. To me, we're talking about a coexistence between man and machine. So you've probably heard it a million times, but this, in my view, is the way we should. I mean, it's like having a very intelligent assistant, but the human values will always be there, and the human element has to exist in order for the two to actually work hand in hand. And there was a recent also paper from Harvard Business Review with BCG, I think, where they actually proved that the use of AI tools like ChatGPT-4 increased quite significantly the productivity as well as quality of the work, of the human work. So this is a sheer proof that these two, when they work together in the proper way, can produce results which are good for humankind. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Panos. Thank you very much. We have time for 1 or 2 questions, if anyone wants to ask. Thanks a lot. Oh, I see one question.
There's also one here.
And there's another one there? Okay, cool. Over there.
Hi, thank you so much for this really great talk, and it's great to see that you're raising awareness about this super important topic. My name is Elena, and I'm both like an academic and industry expert in the field of AI. So my question to you is, how can you ensure that you, while working in industry, where I guess like the main point is increasing your revenue, increasing your sales, and getting to learn and profile your customers a lot better, how do you still ensure that it remains ethical? So in other words, when you're building a recommender system and when you bombard people with ads or they're profiling them, I'm sure Google knows more about me than I know about me. How do you ensure that you still kind of build a responsible and trustworthy AI? So if I consider me as a data scientist, the more data I get, the better. But if I consider me as an individual, then obviously that raises a problem. Not to mention that we're working on a global scale where legislations and regulations do change. So sorry for the slightly difficult question, but it's interesting to see from your side and your experience how you would go about that, given your pharma experience.
No, that's a very good question. Again, I view this exactly like I would view another tool or even another human. So the answer, I think, lies to the fact that we should make sure that we basically design, train, and deploy the AI having what I talked in mind. So teach the AI how they should align their decisions with our values. This is one thing. And this can be reinforced by performing what is called, it's a feedback process where the results of the AI is constantly being monitored by human to make sure that the AI doesn't go AWOL. And the other thing with regards to the use of the AI, because this is also another thing, how we as humans use the AI, this is actually, in a corporate environment, this has to be guardrailed through the appropriate policies that a company has to have. Because I also didn't touch another subject which is very important, which is data privacy as well. So you might be aware that through ChatGPT there have been some data breaches, and a company should make sure, for instance, that it should construct its employees not to be communicating sensitive information to the machine unless we're talking about an enterprise version of ChatGPT, for instance. So the use should be guardrailed by the policies of the company, and as a whole, as a either European Union or any kind of human society and community, we have to have the proper regulation in place well before, though, because this is something that is moving in a very fast pace. So obviously some things will be regulated, as most things are, which is after something happens. But in AI, the legislation and the regulation should actually try and forecast things. So I think there are, in the EU at least, there is work being done towards that direction. But this is extremely important because, as I said before, machines do not have this, evolution time that us humans do, in the way that we think, in the way that we are being raised, in the way that, we function. They have, the on-off 0 to 100 in 0 seconds view. So I don't know if that answered your question. Thank you.
Great. I think that's all. Thanks a lot, Panos.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. If you have any other questions, you can find him during the lunch.